awards, and it just seems to grow in popularity. Why have an awards like this?
Well, the business of sport in South Africa is worth in the region, or sports sponsorship is worth in the region of about 8.2 billion rand a year. That's quite a bit of investment that goes into something we're all very, very passionate about. But if it wasn't for the sponsors that actually put the money into sport, we wouldn't have sport. Ticket prices would be astronomically high. We wouldn't have the kind of broadcasts that we have at the moment. So we felt it's important to recognize the phenomenal work that a lot of the brands in sport do, as well as the rights holders for putting on absolutely fantastic events. You know, we're a world leader in terms of mass participation events, and in many aspects we're at the cutting edge of what's happening with respect to sports sponsorships globally.
So tell us who are some of those nominees that have been shortlisted and the categories, and which category kind of most excites you?
Well, I think we've got one new category this year, which is Best African Sponsorship. And I thought it was important for us to recognize what's happening north of our borders. We've got a number of South African brands that are starting to be a lot more active in the rest of the continent. You know, you were talking earlier about the African Cup of Nations, where Standard Bank is one of the sponsors. Coming up in July, we've got MTN Quebec team taking part in the Tour de France. You know, those are South African brands that are creating continental sponsorships, so it was quite important to actually recognize that. And they're doing some great stuff north of the borders as well. The big awards on the evening are obviously things like Best Integrated Campaign. You know, that is the one campaign that's really captured the hearts and minds of fans. And I think ultimately that has actually affected the bottom line of the business or the brand that is actually associated with it.
You speak about affecting the bottom line, and when I look at PSL matches week in and week out, and I look at empty stadiums, Super Rugby are struggling with attendances in their stadiums, then I wonder just how much value is there for the sponsors. I mean, what's kind of your take on this? Because I know as sport industry, you guys also have a summit every year where you bring those that are involved in sport and business together to help share ideas. I mean, what's your take on that? Because we have seen some, you know, not great attendances.
Absolutely, and it's a problem across many sports in this country. I think that we're just spoiled for choice. The number of television hours for sport has gone up dramatically over the past number of years. You can essentially watch every single PSL game live if you wanted to. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go to the stadium anymore to actually watch them. And it is something that the leagues and the sponsors need to address. From a sponsor's point of view, they obviously want as many people engaged with the sport that they're sponsoring. That way, their brand message reaches a lot more people. So it is something that needs to be addressed, and I know that there are various discussions happening within the industry as to how to best tackle it. But I think it needs to be a partnership between, first of all, the leagues, the stadiums, and the sponsors as well, as to how do they implement a concerted effort in order to actually address it.
And how do we make sure that sport stays true to its nature, that it doesn't just play second fiddle to sponsors and to television?
I think sport will always come first, you know, and I think it's the fans that will actually ensure that as well. You know, fans vote with their feet. If sport is not being true to itself, sponsors will walk away because the fans are not there. So I think ultimately sport is in a good space in this country.
Sports in a good space, 8.2 billion rand per year. That's what the sports industry is worth. Wow, and you guys are going to be awarding that next Thursday. All the best of luck. Thank you very much for coming into the studio to chat to us just a little bit about the Sports Industry Awards, which will be taking place here in Johannesburg. After our last bulletin.